Doesn't say it's recording. Dan, do you see if it's recording? A recording has started. Never mind. I got it.
That's good.
Okay, great. Hi, this is the Community Preservation Committee meeting on March 7th, 2023. And why don't we go around and introduce ourselves? My name is Ann Mazar, and I'm the chair of the committee, and I represent the Land Use Committee on the Community Preservation Committee.
Mike Goddard, Select Board.
Barry Iderola, Planning Board.
Peter Denton, Housing Authority.
Mike Mandelair, Conservation Commission.
And I think we have one more person. Oh, Dan?
Kathy Schaefer.
Dan Byer, the Parks Commission.
Yep. And let Kathy, you want to introduce
Kathy
yourself?
Schofield, Historic Commission.
Great, okay. So, actually, why don't we just do the minutes? Did you guys get a chance to look at the minutes? Does anybody need a copy to look at them? I didn't put them on there.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Okay, does anybody else need a copy to look at them? All right, wait a second.
The motion's been made and seconded. to
Yeah, I
approve.
know, Mike was reading them, so I was just waiting.
Okay,
Suspense.
my mistake.
All right, any discussion?
Nope.
All right, all those in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
All right, great. Why don't we move to the annual meeting warrant articles? And since Kathy is here to talk about the Historical Commission, the records room article, why don't we move to that, okay? So Kathy, do you want to tell us about that?
Yep, the Menon Historical Commission tonight is requesting funds in the amount of $115,807, let's make it 808, plus an additional 58,000 for a total of 173,800 from CPA Historic to pay for the stabilization and work towards the adaptive reuse of the 1820 Seth Hastings Law Office located at 13 Main Street. We are submitting an MPPF grant application to fund 50% of the total sum, which was $231,615,000 that was provided to us by Armando Piera, AIA of CDBS Design, West Wareham, Mass. Excuse me. The 50% balance of the funding for this project is being requested from CPA Historic along with a 25% cash flow as is outlined in the grant process. This 25% is used as a reserve in the event that Mass Historic is unable to process payment in a timely manner, and that amount will be returned to the CPA Historic account at the end of the project. So the requested amount will go towards the following projects: repointing the foundation, installing a French drain under the required concrete slab in the basement, support columns and footings needed to stabilize the floor structure on the first floor, removal of existing floor and storage while the subfloor is replaced, flooring reinstalled and compromised floorboards replaced with in-kind material, construction of a 10 by 10 handicap accessible bathroom addition at the rear left side of the building, excavate and install a foundation to this addition, and relocate existing bulkhead and basement access. Addition will be wood framed and sided with clapboard. Roofing materials would match the existing and gutters and downspouts installed. The interior insulated and finish work done with new in-kind window in the bathroom. Install plumbing pipe work for future connection. Install an earthen ADA ramp on the front entrance of the building, accessed by a paved pathway from the rear, which will have a parking spot. install heating and air conditioning system in the attic space to replace the existing system. So what is not included in this quote is the well or access to a well. That has still not been resolved, or a tight tank, or the plumbing fixtures. So we decided we had to cap off at some point, because I think we're moving out of the available funds from Mass Historic Commission for this grant. So there's a chance that later on down the road, we will look at the septic and the well situation and find a solution to both of those. But most importantly, it's to stabilize the building and get all the work done so that it will be a functional building at some point. One of the suggestions that was made by Armando was, if the town decided in the future to buy the property next door, it could be used as low-income housing. And we could tie the records room into that well and then put on a tight tank in the front. So it's just something to think about for the future. So, as much as I think we would all like to see it be done completely, we're going to have to do this in steps. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans? I'd like to see what the fix is for the basement.
Yes, the plans are coming in on Monday, and I will email them to you.
So when it says installing a French drain under the required concrete slab in the basement, they're installing a French drain inside the building instead of outside around the foundation?
That's a good question, because when I
That's why I asked.
duplicated it, I believe it's around the foundation.
So it's gonna be outside?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, personally, I'm all for it to rehab that building, but before I vote to approve any money, I'd like to see the plans and have some input on the structural foundation that's
Being
somebody's
proposed. Okay,
suggestion takes place.
yep,
And tonight we
I mean,
don't,
that's just me.
and tonight
The
we
committee
don't,
can do what they want, but like I said, before I vote to approve any money, and I'm in favor of it,
oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
want to make sure that the fix is a one-time fix and it's going to work properly.
and
yeah.
we don't need to vote the money tonight. Tonight's more to get the items on the warrant. And we can still pull, right, things, so. Any other questions?
What are you gonna use it for when we're talking about spending a lot of money here?
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of money. And most of that is structural work. The foundation is, you can see through some parts in the foundation, water just pours in. It's been neglected for a very long time. So, in order to save it, and keep it standing and then find a future use for it, we do have to deal with the structural issues. And a lot of that was moisture driven. The powder post beetles had worked on the, support beams, and so they were replaced probably about 15 years ago, I think. There was some work done on it, but it wasn't enough. They really needed to get the water out of the basement.
So is it safe to say this is purely a preservation act right now in terms of keep the building? Because it's an historic building, it might have adaptive reuse down the road, but we could lose it altogether if we don't do something now.
Right, right.
It's absolutely a preservation act.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's in the historic downtown village, so, it's,
Is there any way that sometime along I could take a peek at the basement
I
inside?
would appreciate that. Anytime you want to, give me a call and we'll get over there. Because I think I'd really like to get your
Leave at the
input.
end of the day, make sure I get your number.
Okay,
Is
sounds
the
good.
bulkhead locked?
yeah, no.
Not tonight.
Kathy, is the
What-
bulkhead locked?
No,
Oh, you
it should be, but it's not.
Bring rain boots.
Oh,
What was
Did
that, Dan?
is it locked? Yeah, it's locked.
No, I said, if in the basement, it's a mud pit.
It is a mud pit, yeah. We were down there 2 weeks ago, so it was pretty,
You could get in there to see it if you want.
So they'll be pouring a concrete slab down there.
yes. So bring your galoshes.
Yeah, I just want to go over the plan too. I want to see the plumbing and how they're going to do that. what's
Right,
gonna happen
I want
with
to
that.
take a look at the existing foundation. Is it a stone foundation?
It is Fieldstone, yep.
Amazing.
Yeah, originally they were proposing to do a spray and concrete mix.
On the inside?
Yeah, but I don't believe he felt it was going to be,
Well, not to get off track, but do you remember the little story about the Dutch boy that put his finger on the dike and it just kept spraying?
yeah,
To fix a leak, you gotta fix it from the side the
Oh.
water's coming in.
yeah,
So since we're gonna be digging around, that's why I'd like to look at the plans, and putting a French drain on the outside, which, again, I would like to see the plans, because you can put a French drain around the outside, but you gotta get the water from the drain.
Yeah, you got to get it somewhere.
You would fix the outside, which a one-sided concrete placement against it, and then you can go on the inside and gunite spray it, point it, whatever. But it's not gonna do any good if you don't do anything to the foundation wall on the outside.
yeah.
Even though it's buried, that's the root of the problem.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But like I
Absolutely.
said, I'd like to look at it so I can take a peek and just see what the actual problem is.
Yeah, no, and it would be good to have another set of eyes on it because it's, none of us are really experienced in this stuff, so.
Why don't I send around an email and then you could set up a time and anyone that wanted to go look could see it and then check out the plans. You could bring the plans. Does that sound like a good idea?
I'll call you and let you know. It might even be this Saturday or maybe this Friday morning.
Okay, Friday might work better for me. I think I might be in New Hampshire for the weekend, so.
Does
Shoveling.
anyone else want to be involved in that?
I just want to see the plans because basically everything I'm looking at is an addition. Other than the French drain, and that's going to be on the plan. That's not going to be there now.
Will you have the plans like online that Barry
I can make them
or
on, yeah, I can put them up online.
Would that work or do you want to see? Okay. All right, any other questions or?
No, again, I want to reiterate, I'm all in favor of it, whatever it costs to save that building. But if we're going to do it, and you want my vote, it's going to be done right. Not to say that I'm the cure-all and I know everything about it, but
Well, we
I do know
appreciate,
enough about it to know how to fix the problem.
yeah, we appreciate the support and every, firm that's come through, has reiterated that it's very much worth saving, so I think we're
Absolutely.
money well spent.
Can you send me like wording for the warrant article or, okay.
Yep.
And then, all right, so any more questions or anything?
Not on that.
Are we in agreement that we would like to put this item on the warrant?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, and then probably the next meeting we'll vote on dollar amounts. Okay. I had a question for the Historical Commission. The gutters on the record room, we had funded a while back. And I think there is $1,200 in that account. Should we transfer that back?
I would put it back
Okay.
and we'll just roll it into this project.
Okay. Somewhere on there, but yes, okay. Right.
Excellent.
Okay, let's see. Dan, do you want to talk about the baseball lights, field lights?
Yeah, I can do that. I just might see that's gonna yell at me in a second.
Okay,
Yeah, so Nipmuc, we've been having this conversation for a while now. Nipmuc used baseball. Oh, hang on.
we can't hear you.
Nipmuc- Yeah, I'm in a mute, so you don't have to listen to my GPS. It's gonna go off multiple times. Or if you want to wait a minute and come back to me,
We can do that, definitely.
I'm just up the back stretch of highway in a second.
Okay, we'll do something else then. Okay, the town hall restoration. I don't well, Kathy, that you could address that also.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to you, Mike, about it today, but I'm curious to know because I saw an email from Kim that they're still kind of in limbo on the windows, getting a plan together and getting some responses. So I don't know if there's going to be enough time to get all those numbers together to get it on the warrant for the annual town meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Kim wants to do it. And I don't think you want to necessarily do it.
I think that there's definitely CPA money that could be used for the town hall. But I think-
we always knew it was going to be a tight window to get the architect's recommended
Yeah,
Yeah.
numbers back. So I think last time we talked about, if we can do it, why don't we do it? Doesn't sound like we're going to be able to do it, so.
I think like if we're better prepared to bring it to town meeting, then there'll be a better chance for it to pass because people are going to have a lot of questions and stuff. So I think. Dan, did you want to say something?
Can you, I don't know where Mike's sitting, but can you just put a microphone in front of him? Because I can't hear him.
I really have a lot to say, Dan. It's okay.
Thanks.
Can you hear him?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, last time we said a placeholder, if we get it, great. It'll only accept, won't slow down the project. And if we don't get it, well, we pull it or pass over it. So I'm not really strongly committed one way or the other. If people prefer not to, that's fine. I'd say based on our conversation today, Kathy, there might be more things besides windows we'd want to roll into that potentially, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's no harm, no
agree.
foul,
Placeholder, fine, until we get more information to make a good decision on what we want to do.
My sense, though, is I don't think folks think we're going to have enough information. That's what I'm hearing. So,
Well, again, maybe we can do it in pieces. There's more than one way to build a box, But putting a placeholder on it is, I agree with, because it's always easy to go, you know what, we're not ready, pull it or pass over it. Then to
yeah.
go.
So to that point, to me, it's a question of if we don't put anything on the warrant, we know we're going to have to wait until fall,
Right.
STM to fund anything, which is a 6-month window that nothing can happen. I'm not sure what the status is of the third party getting numbers back to Kim in terms of design and things like that. But I'm assuming if they have a design and they bring it back, they would also have quotes with it.
Yeah.
So the day that she gets the design, we should have ballpark figures for what we might want to take, and then we plug in a number. I think there's the other question would be, we're hitting the funds for a number of things in this go round. So if there's a thought that let's not try to put too much on the plate for the town to consider, maybe it's too much money. That's another reason not to do it, I guess. But
Well, when you're spending that kind of money, don't you think the more people, because it's the people's money, the more people should have
better than
the
STM.
opportunity
Yeah.
to sit in and voice, whether they take advantage of it or not. But to have it at a special town meeting that historically
Yeah.
gets 20 people and we're voting on,
Yeah, I mean, I think
A large sum
we
of
got
money
like 2 weeks to
doesn't sit
pull it
right.
all together
Yeah.
from the warrant, because we're gonna have to close on it. Otherwise, it'll be a passover on the floor. And I don't know how people feel about passing over. I mean,
I don't know.
sitting in the audience, I know I hear people saying, well, why is it there if we're not ready, right? Some people look,
As long as there's an explanation, I think
Right,
everybody
yeah.
understands it.
I actually don't have an issue with passing over.
I don't.
It speeds
Oh, me
things up
neither.
when you got like 50 articles and you pass over 30 of them. It's a pleasant surprise from a timing standpoint.
Yeah, that's true.
well, and it does another thing too, it makes people aware of upcoming, okay, it passed over, let's watch for it again.
Right.
But like I said, I firmly believe when you're voting that kind of money, it should be made available at the annual town meeting, because
Like
that's the most
bylaws and
important
all
one.
that stuff, the big things.
Usually, as you well know, usually special town meetings that are clean up odds and ends and, oops, we forgot that in the budget, or et cetera, et cetera.
I have a question. Do you think that the town hall work have a grant go with it? Or do you think since you're getting a grant from the records room, probably the town hall,
Yeah, we wouldn't be eligible again until next January for another round of grants.
next January? So I guess so if it was in November, then, it could be the funding contingent on a grant or something like that possibly, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And the grant, who do you apply for the grant?
The Mass Preservation Project Fund.
Is that the only place that would have grant money?
Yeah, that
Towards something like that?
narrows it down for the windows. I don't know that they would even touch the reconstruction
Mhm.
in the back, but, the windows we could certainly put through an MPPF grant. But, they may or may not fund it. If they're giving us money this year for the records room, they may just pass on us next year, so.
Well, you won't know unless you ask.
That is true.
What's the worst thing they could say? It's no, right? Oh, well.
Yeah. And I mean, it has a big price tag on it. I mean, I think we were looking at almost 200,000 for the windows, so.
There's a lot of windows here.
Yeah, 40, 50,
Mhm.
maybe some behind brick walls, we don't know.
But you put a quality window in, it's gonna last well over our lifetime.
Yeah.
For the future generations of Mendon. And that's how we gotta present it. It's not just for us to look at the nice shiny windows, it's for,
So Mike, do you see matching funds as a good reason to wait and put it off to the STM? Or just
No,
still put it there and then see what comes of it and?
I think it should be on the annual town meeting. If we don't have enough information to offer it, we explain it to the people. You're gonna have plenty of people, hopefully, there that you can say, okay, it gives you a stage to present the ideas and explain why.
Yeah.
Not just, okay, we're passing over it.
So.
Give them a presentation anyway.
So put a placeholder on there, and even if we don't know dollar amounts, just keep it on there,
Yeah.
and then we can figure out in April or whatever. Okay.
Dollar amounts can be adjusted right up to right up till the articles presented.
So in our initial research, when we were reaching out to some of these, window people, we had two companies that were very responsive and responded immediately. In fact, one of them we called in on the records room. So, I mean, there's a good chance that we could get two solid quotes on the table before, but we have to figure out the logistics of that if we just pulled the windows out as a separate project.
Yeah, I'm not sure we need to do that. I mean, even if we got two quotes that ballpark something, we could still look at it and say, we got a general estimate. I wouldn't pull it out of the project because then you're losing the general contracting aspect of what Kim's doing overall, which I think is interesting, unless there's a cost. I mean, there's a cost to that, but I'm not sure what the markup is. But I mean, in terms of this, I think what we're hearing is let's leave it on there now. Let's keep moving forward with the idea that we will have an idea what it will be.
And keep it general, just town hall restoration.
And I would decide to outline, I would probably target, outline windows. But given what we talked about today, Kathy, there could be an opportunity to do some things from a design standpoint for what they're doing now that might be eligible. You never know.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we finalize the dollars, at the 11th hour, which we're really good at.
I mean, anybody that's lived in town for a minimum of 10 years knows that the town hall has been neglected because we didn't have the money, not because we didn't want to fix it. The money wasn't there. The coin is flipped and we're starting to generate a lot of money, et cetera. So we're doing the right thing by saying, okay, we got this money coming in, let's improve our surroundings for the next flip of the coin when we don't have any money.
I think she's been waiting like 50 years for something to happen, so it's good.
And with the landscape restoration around the outside, it should look nice, by the spring.
Right. As it should be, as it should be. This is our town. This is the center of town.
All right. Okay, so we'll put that on as a placeholder then. And the last time we talked about the affordable housing position, and we said we'd put down half, right, for next year. So do you want to move forward with that still? And that would be around $8,360. Is that, do you still want to go in that direction, or?
Well, I had a conversation with,
For CMRPC?
Yeah, the first year would be free, and then the second year we would pay for.
So we're gonna put half in now, so that we have half for next year?
That's what you
If
had
we
talked about.
decide, I agree with that. Let's, instead of taking it all next year, let's put a little away this year.
Yep.
To show that good faith to everyone, including the government.
Yeah.
But if we don't like what we're getting, we don't have to pay.
Right.
You can go, well, you know what? No, it's not working out. And it won't be for lack of money. It'll be for lack of service.
so this is purely an accounting exercise. There's no commitment to 2 years, 3 years,
Right.
whatever. We're just banking it for future use.
Right.
That's fine.
All right. The next one is affordable housing project at 52 Providence. Right now, the RFP's out, and there is going to be like an on-site review with the people that have put applications in. I think 2 people have put applications in. The deadline still hasn't been, we're not there yet. So with the affordable housing project, it's a possibility that someone might put in an application but need extra money. And so that's why that's there. And I don't know what the dollar amount is because.
So this is a placeholder like the windows?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it might be 0 and it might be something else, but, we'll have a better idea when we see the applications. Then the next one is the police debt, which is $133,306. And then the last one is the dividing the money up, and it would be $766,605 that we would be dividing up in the different categories. So is everyone good with those items being on the warrant in general? And then we can vote specifics. We might as well do it all together, at the next meeting.
In the affordable housing project, that would be subject to the amount of additional funds they're asking for, right? We haven't committed to funding it until we see what they're asking, right? Yeah.
It might be that we don't want any of the proposals, or
Right.
maybe no one's going to submit anything. There are two applications have been taken out, and so hopefully we'll have 2 people that will be able to see their project and choose from that.
What do these figures here represent?
That's how much money is in
That's how much money we have in hand
yes,
for each, for open space, historic, affordable.
right. But the fund balance and budget reserve can be used in anything. And then also, this doesn't include that in November, we'll probably get another $800,000 to add to it.
So the 766 on the flip side of this, is that included across these accounts that we're splitting up?
That's pretty much dividing the money that we have.
Okay, so that 76 is in these numbers.
Pretty much,
Okay.
yeah. Yep. So I think that's it until we go into executive session. So is there anything else before we go into executive session?
Lights?
Yeah, lights for Dan.
Oh, lights, action. Okay.
I'm on the highway now.
Sorry, Dan. All right.
Okay. Yeah, so the youth groups have been talking about lights on the fields for years now. It's the Lowell Field and Pasella Field and Memorial Park, which are the 2 front fields. So we had gotten a price from Musco, and I believe it was around $300,000 they negotiate, I guess somebody involved with softball is in the industry and was able to get a price closer to 100,000, which is a whole lot more achievable. So we're still trying to get some better numbers, but we'd like to try and apply for another park grant and see if we can get some money from the state. They'll pay, I believe it's 60% to 100,000. So I think I had sent Ann to like rough estimates. So the project was 150,000. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head anymore. Let's see if I can find what I just said. Or, do you have the email I sent you, Ann?
Yeah, so I thought that you had said that you wanted to go for like 150,000, 15,000 would come from youth softball, 90,000 from the park grant, and that would leave 45,000 for CPA money. Does that
Right.
sound right?
Sorry, I wasn't planning on driving back, but I had to run an errand tonight. So, yeah, so I think that would be the goal. Unfortunately, the way the grant works, we have to appropriate 100% of the cost, unlike the historic one that has, I think it was 75%. But the bottom line, so we get the money from the state, and there's at least 15,000, and I believe they're holding another fundraiser event. So the net cost would not be the full 175 or 50, whatever I had said.
So so it would be more in the range of 45,000 that the town would actually pay.
Right.
But do we have to appropriate the whole amount?
Yeah, it's like special wording with the grant, and
Right.
so Dan will put that together, and so.
But the amount coming out of CPA would be 150, and then we reimburse once we
Yeah.
get the, okay.
Yeah, it essentially gets encumbered. We don't necessarily even spend it. But the state is a reimbursement grant, so that'll come back to us. And the private donations will have to get deposited in a town account. I'll figure that out.
So would the warrant be, the article be contingent upon getting the grant? So does that make sense, Dan? And would the
Yeah, so
timing work?
We talked about it a little bit with the sports people that I met with. I think we're probably going to make this contingent, and then if the grant doesn't go through, well, I think it would make more sense to regroup and maybe try and fundraise a little more before we come back to the town for a larger amount. At this point, even if this all went perfectly, the best case scenario would probably be next, a year from now for an installation. So I think we're better off seeing, see if we can get a grant and see if there's some opportunities to get more funding before we just jump on it.
Dan, what do we have for a power drop there?
So the last time we talked, so they'd be LED lights, first of all, so that the power would be minimal. I think most likely we would tie into the feed that comes up Millville Road. We already have those poles that go up that parking lot. That's the service for the bathrooms. And our power meter is like halfway up there. So I think we would probably just come right off there and either tie off of that service or we'll have Grid run a new service. There's also a service in the softball shack. That'll be, I think, something the company will recommend.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is there gonna be enough power to be dropped there? You just don't,
My
you just don't
understanding,
hook a wire onto the existing wire. Has anybody talked to the power company?
so my understanding, and I have not verified with them, that we're not necessarily, it'd be one thing if we had to run lines on our own property, but as long as we don't need some huge 3-phase transformer or something, it's Grid's responsibility to supply us the power. Like we'll just say, we may have to have them install a whole new power meter, and then we would run our own conduit to tie into that. But I don't necessarily think that's a limiting factor.
I guess what I'm hearing is we don't really have a set plan on that yet. Is that correct?
Right, so we have one proposal for the 100,000, which I'm trying to get a copy of. I have the overview from Musco. The way this stuff works, we're not going to get engineering drawings until we actually go out to bid, unless we hire somebody to do all that up front. Usually you roll that into the bid, have them supply all that.
We don't know what the load is.
Right, and that's my concern.
Right.
We're gonna
I guess-
price out lights and then make a deal for lights and then find out we can't get enough power to run them.
I think my, again,
That's doing things backwards.
I could be misunderstanding how this works. My understanding is we would go out to bid for a company to install lights, soup to nuts. It's their responsibility to include all that in their bid package and whatever they need to do to get the power they need.
That seems to make sense.
Granted,
I get that
I,
information.
I agree, but now you get into a contract writing. We gotta get a professional to write the contract, so that if something up, you know what, here's a change, I need a change order, because that's not gonna work now.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, is you find out all your information first, you decide on what lights that match the power that you can get. You don't start.
Should know what the load is there now, as far as what's available on that maxed out.
You got three-phase 13 out there.
Right.
You might have
And
to
everything before the meter is not our problem.
get, excuse me.
Is that something you could find out by the next meeting and have dollar amounts?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, we're still trying to lock down some more proposals for the lights because just the one, I don't think that's a solid enough number yet, but I can reach out to Grid and find out exactly, what information they look for, and we can ask these lighting companies that are providing the proposals. So I can bring that back to you.
Dan, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I'm not trying to throw cold water on the project. In fact, I'm in favor of getting lights up there. But let's make sure, because it's gonna be a large sum of money, again, let's make sure we get the best bang for the buck. That's why you pre-plan.
So I'm just this is all over my head. I'm listening to Mike, you guys are talking, and I'm just wondering, can you make sure Dan understands the question, specifically what the question is you're asking? Like, send him an email, and because you two are going back and forth, and I'm not sure Dan's necessarily hearing everything in terms of, you're saying determine what the load right now is, right?
Along
I know-
with Mike
You gotta
saying,
figure out what the load is right
you've
now,
gotta
what the
get
load the
your-
lights you're gonna have, to make
Right.
sure the load
Get
that you
'em.
have available.
Right, so he needs to
gonna
know
hold-
what the
it's
load
gonna handle.
available is.
You
The
get-
people that he's pricing lights and putting the lights in should be able to tell him what the load those lights
get your
require.
proposal.
But there's
Get the
two
whole
loads
proposal.
you would like he needs to understand.
Right, the load that's
And I just want to make
available,
sure, Dan, these are two separate numbers, but they need to match,
Yeah,
right?
You want one
I heard the discussion.
to be lower than the supply.
Right. So Dan, do you catch that?
Yeah, so I will follow up with the installers at National Grid. Again, I understand all your questions. I am fairly versed in electrical stuff. I think anything that happens before the meter, it's Grid's responsibility to provide us as much power as we're willing to pay for. If they have to run new wires on the street, that's their problem. Unless, again, I think we're getting way into the technical details here.
Can you get that in writing?
I'm not sure about that.
You get the proposed project so you know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Then somebody, I don't care who's in charge, takes that project to National Grid, and they'll tell you what's gotta happen from there.
Okay.
Yep.
If anybody's gonna know, there's the guy right there.
Yeah.
Need to know your load to start.
Exactly.
Does that
Right.
help, Danny, or does it just make it worse?
No, that's what we did with the town hall. We reached out to Grid and they just had a designer come look at everything. So we can certainly do that here because I think you raised good points. We need to make sure that we cover all this so we don't have a problem.
Right, I'll speak for myself. I'm in favor of getting lights there.
I am too.
I
But like you
think
said,
every-
you put the lights in and all of a sudden you need to bring something else in to handle it. I don't think they're gonna do it for nothing.
Right.
Hey, Dan,
Yeah.
are the lights dark sky compliant,
We haven't gotten that far, but I assume they would be because that's pretty much all you can get. Like what he has on the turf fields there, where like the second you step into the parking lot, you're in the darkness. The
Yeah.
technology is so much better than it was.
Okay,
But I
So-
will make sure that's part of it.
okay. So it sounds like the general consensus is we'll put this on the warrant and Dan will come back with more information next meeting.
Yeah, so we'll get better proposals and we'll reach out to Grid and understand how that all will be worked out.
You're gonna have to have some kind of switches and everything else.
All right, I think that's everything. So now we can go in executive session?
Yep, make a motion to go into executive session.
Second?
Yeah, you have to leave, sorry. Sorry.
Sorry, guys.
Thank you for coming.
Before you leave, why doesn't this committee have a representative from the historical?
We do.
You have Lynn Roberts.
Yeah.
But she's on vacation.
Oh,
And she
okay.
was-
I'm sorry.
So am I.
Yeah.
Had time to go on vacation. All right, let me give you my phone number. I should write it on this.
You can write it right on there.
Obstacle course. There you go. All set.
All righty,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so we're going to vote to go into executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have detrimental effects on the negotiating position of the public body. And I think we have to do the roll call vote. So,
Goddard, aye.
Ida Roller, aye.
Denton, aye.
Mendeleer, aye.
you and I, Dan?
He's muted.
Hi, sorry.
Okay, and I'll say aye. All right, so I'm going to stop the recording.
Can Danny still hear us, or what happens?
And is there anything else that needs to be discussed?
I'm good.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Good night.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Good night, Dan.
Yeah.
I can take your agendas and stuff if you don't want them. I'm using the scrap paper. I also don't want them to be laying around anywhere. You want to